we have to start with the fact that nearly 3 weeks in to the full speed spinning of the coaching carousel in one city, it has stopped. Not on Steve Wilkes, not on Sean Payton, not on Kellen Moore, but on Frank Reich. Fired 9 games in to the 2022 season as coach of the Colts, a job he took on a surprise basis in 2018 after Josh McDaniels jilted Jim Irsay and bailed on Matt Eberflus, who had taken the job as defensive coordinator under the assumption it was going to be McDaniels. In comes Reich. Then Reich has revolving door of quarterback, does the best he can under tough circumstances. He's got a 4-year deal that's expected to be finalized on Monday, and he actually was the starting quarterback for the first game in Panthers history in 1995. He was 0-3 as the starter for that expansion team. Peter, I'm not shocked it happened because yesterday it was starting to point in that direction. There still was kind of a suddenness to the Panthers being the first team to do it. I'd been watching the Broncos as maybe the first team to make a decision, and maybe they have, and they're just waiting for D'Amico Ryans. How surprised were you that Reich got that job?
At the beginning of this process, I would have been quite surprised that Frank Reich got one of the 5 jobs. But as the process played on, you could see pretty simply that the Carolina Panthers wanted the first offensive head coach in franchise history. And I think the reason is that they have an owner. Look, a lot's going to be made of the fact that Steve Wilkes didn't get the job, and rightfully so. He took a bad team, traded its worst player, and then he went 6-6 down the stretch and almost won a bad division. So I understand that. My feeling is that this owner was highly, highly partial to an offensive head coach because he is tired, even though it hasn't been that long. He's tired of not having a quarterback and every year having the exact same problem. Who's going to play quarterback? Who's our long-term quarterback? Who's going to coach the quarterback? And so that, to me, is what really ended up making this decision. Who was going to be the best? And you saw that, I think it was Tom Pelissero who wrote that it was actually Kellen Moore who finished second, and not Steve Wilkes. And so if that's the case, indeed that's the case, it's clear. You know, you had a guy in-house on your team that had the respect of this franchise who didn't get the job because the owner, and I would assume general manager Scott Fitterer as well, wanted a guy who could develop a quarterback and coach the quarterbacks. Now, keep this in mind, that they've got the 9th pick in the draft, and I don't know how the quarterbacks are going to fall. 9 is a little low unless you want to get the 3rd or 4th quarterback in this draft. So the Panthers clearly could move. And keep in mind also that, to me, I think this is a very good situation for a young quarterback to walk into for this reason, that Sam Darnold finished the year respectfully and had a decent end of season. He can play for a while the quarterback of the future, basically earns his stripes and gets ready to go. So it looks like that's what this team wants to do. And look, one other thing I would say, Frank Reich had a different starting quarterback on opening day of all 5 years that he coached the Indianapolis Colts. He's used to, a grab bag at quarterback. So I think those are the things that probably stood, that made him, a sensible choice for David Tepper and Scott Fitterer.
And he had a different starting quarterback when he was offensive coordinator the year before he became the Colts head coach. That was Carson Wentz. And he ended up injured, and they won the Super Bowl in Philly with Nick Foles. So he's very adept at being flexible and creative and adaptive when it comes to quarterbacks. But I agree with you. I think he would like to get away from this revolving door of veterans. I don't think it's going to be Matt Ryan. I don't think it's going to be Carson Wentz. I definitely know it won't be Phillip Rivers, although there is, if it was closer to the Phillip Rivers expiration date, it would be fascinating to have the guy who went to NC State playing in North Carolina. But quarterback is going to be key. That's something David Tepper has been trying to do. He has swung and missed on multiple occasions for high-end veteran quarterbacks who just didn't want to go there. They had Baker Mayfield, Sam Darnold, and they do have the youngster who was drafted in round 3 last year, who I interviewed before the draft, and whose name currently escapes me. But he's on the roster
Matt
as well.
Corral.
Contract for 3 more years. Matt Corral.
That's Chris Sims's.
Sorry, Matt.
That's Chris Sims's favorite quarterback in the draft last year, and we've kind of just forgotten him.
He also brushes his teeth in the shower. Yeah. So a quarterback is going to be key. It's key for every team, and this is going to be a crazy year. I have resisted to the best of my ability talking about most of the quarterbacks who are going to be in this game of musical chairs, other than the ones that make us money, Tom Brady and Aaron Rodgers. But, Peter, this is going to be the nuttiest year ever of quarterback movement from a veteran standpoint. So many guys with expiring contracts who are going to be available. Then you throw in Lamar Jackson, who's going to be available to somebody who wants to give up the draft capital if the Ravens will accept it and can't work out a deal with him. So a lot of moving parts, a lot of possibilities for Frank Reich. And the best news for the Panthers is Frank Reich has proven he can work with whoever ends up being the quarterback on his roster and or the backup if that's the case. Hi, it's Mike Florio. Thanks for watching PFT on YouTube. Hit subscribe for the latest news and analysis from Pro Football Talk.